Scott's not annoying about it. You are. The percentage of our audience that thinks because you say one team first, they're the visiting team.
Yeah. Well,
Nobody thinks that. Like UTV people were taught that.
In the chat room.
That is the one thing that makes you stand out as a sportscaster.
Yeah.
It's the one thing you do.
It led to 2 Emmys. In the 1900s.
Well, how many people submitted, though?
Regional.
Remember, you've got to submit your Emmys.
Yeah, I mean, I could have been the only guy in the category.
I'm sorry, Brown, but I think everybody thinks that.
No, everybody does not, Scott.
Everybody
you all have been taught that by Mike Rada in your case,
Daniel.
and by Ken
Nobody
Lass.
thinks that.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks that.
Yeah.
Away team always first, Craig.
The away team is first.
Daniel, first team set is the road team. Jay, I agree with Dunaway here. Hunter, 100% do. Lunsford, you always say
10 games to go. Will the Atlanta Braves make the postseason? Some call this threat level midnight. Us here in the PG studios, along with my broadcast partner, I'm coming up with a moniker for you. I didn't know if you had a moniker already. Do you have a moniker? EG joining us in Tuscaloosa. Have you been donned a moniker yet?
I guess Queen.
That's kind of broad, and it's taken. R.I.P. Freddie Mercury. How about the Marival Marvel?
The Marival Marvel?
Yeah. Marietta Marvel, I meant. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Marietta Marvel, everyone good on that? Yep. That's what you are.
Bro, something, Georgia
Southern.
Yeah,
we could come up with that too, but for today, you're the Marietta.
All right, Marietta Marvel. Good to see everyone.
Long time Marietta Marvel, Emily Grace McWhorter joining us from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, as the Braves are in the middle of the first inning 0-0 with the Cincinnati Reds. Ush, E.G., Rocky, Scott Forrester joining us today. And partner, I got up this morning. I said, I got a show to do today. I want to look my best.
You did.
My little dog friend here joining me. Roback. You go to roback.com. And when you check out, enter code PG20. It's going to save you 20% on your entire order. I did it. And if I can do it, you can do it. Isn't that right, E.G.?
Absolutely. Code PG20 gets you 20% off. And believe it or not, the holidays are quickly approaching. You start that Christmas shopping early. You don't have to worry about it. Roback.com, PG20. You can get everything. They also have some really cool collegiate lines right now. If you're an Alabama, Auburn fan, things like that. PG20, just do it. Thank us later.
I bet you, before you leave Tuscaloosa, I bet you'll see some Alabama-inspired Roback gear while you're there.
Actually, a career fair taking place behind me, so parking with them. And dare I say, I've seen some Roback.
Yeah. Career fair. How about that?
Oh, I know. It's taking
I like
place in
that. I want to be an unpaid podcast host. That's what I'm going to sign up for career fair. Let's look at where we are. 10 games, threat level midnight. The Braves are 82-70. They are 5-5 in their last 10. So here's how it breaks down, because we're going to have a race to the finish. They are 2 games back of the Mets for the final wild card spot. But they're also 2 games in back of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona and New York with matching records right now at 84-68. So Atlanta at 82-70. The Mets and Diamondbacks 84-68. Now the Mets are 6-4 out of their last 10 compared to the Braves, who are playing 500 ball. Arizona is 5-5 like the Braves are in their last 10. The Padres are 2.5 up. So they are the number 1 wild card right now, but they're just 2.5 up on both New York and Arizona. They're only, by the way, they're 87-66, 6-4 in their last 10, and they're only 3.5 games back on the Dodgers. Now, that's the only one I'm going to mention from a divisional standpoint, because Philly's 7 games up, and no one is even going to make the playoffs in the Central other than Milwaukee.
Well, it's interesting. when you give the numbers behind everything, right? Because it is going to be a photo finish. Now, the question for Braves country is, are the Braves going to be a part of it?
Right.
Because right now in games, every game matters so deeply, but it's not even the games the Braves are playing. It's everything around them. And the Braves are not in control of their own destiny in the slightest. You have to have some losses come from teams, and the Braves can't control that. You know, they could win their next 10 straight. That would be incredible. What happens if the Mets and the Diamondbacks do the same thing?
Yeah, so we're gonna look at that remaining schedule for those 3 teams anyway. And I mentioned that 3.5 back on the Dodgers. I don't think the Padres, with 10 games left, I don't think the Padres are going to be able to catch the Dodgers, but it is at least a possibility. Buster Only was on the Next Round today, good segment, and talked about Milwaukee and how unlikely that another division title for them has been. They clinched that last night, by the way. We mentioned last week about the Cubs being a dark horse candidate. They've really fallen back. So safe to say no one from the Central will be making the playoffs other than Milwaukee. And you think about it, going into the season, losing their manager and some higher hopes put on the Cubs and the Cardinals specifically. But, obviously we're well familiar with Cincinnati, playing them now, how many good young players they have. And people thought, okay, the Brewers will take a step back. And they have been in charge of that division all season long.
Yeah, I feel like they've exceeded expectations in a lot of ways. And it adds to how fun this season is going to play out in posts, and obviously the hope is that the Braves are a part of things, but Milwaukee definitely, they're strong. I feel like for me, they're so consistent that they have a chance to contend and go pretty deep. Yeah,
Cincinnati, by the way, Ellie De La Cruz is as exciting a player as there is in baseball. Just super fun to watch. Guy, young team, not sure if they can put it together, what's ahead for the teams in that division, but don't discount Milwaukee. A lot more attention is going to be paid to Philadelphia and LA, and I don't think that that's wrong, but Milwaukee is a legitimate contender.
Well, and think about, to Milwaukee's benefit, how much that can play into it. If you all the Dodgers, Phillies, that's an opportunity for Milwaukee to, again, exceed expectations, cut out some of the noise. As Nick Saban says, I am in Tuscaloosa, no rat poison for Milwaukee, and that could really play a role in things going down the stretch.
There you go. So let's look at remaining games. So the Braves and Reds just got started to finish out that series is tied 1-1. Coming off of the Dodgers, and it's interesting because that was a 4-game series with the Dodgers, and it felt like, and they split. Yeah. And Braves won the first 2, Dodgers won the second 2. It feels like the Braves got swept because games 3 and 4 were so lopsided, and it was so defeating.
So defeating. We were texting back and forth. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
They were embarrassing losses, and I think that's why we feel like the Braves just lost 4 games to the Dodgers, and they didn't. The first 2 games, I mean, Braves country, it's like up, down, where do we land?
Yeah.
There's no consistency, and it manifested itself. It feels like this season can be summed up in that series against the Dodgers.
Right
there.
Well,
that is the
to lose those 2 and then to come back and start the series with Cincinnati and to be up and then to come and we watched part of that game together, and then to lose that game was just an extra layer on the sandwich. But it's a sandwich made of crap, and who wants to eat that? It's a crap sandwich. Braves and Reds will finish up. That's going on now, and then 3 at the Marlins, 3 at home with the Mets, 3 at home with the Royals. That's how the Braves will end the regular season. So you have a bad team in Miami, in a ballpark that Atlanta has played well, a team that Atlanta has really dominated lately.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 potential playoff teams there in New York and Kansas City. Here's what the Mets have left. They have 4 games with the Phillies, a 4-game series with the Phillies, which starts tonight. That's in Shea. Yeah, or no, excuse me, in what is it called? Citi Field?
Citi Field.
Flushing, New York. Then they go to Atlanta for those 3, and then they end with 3 in Milwaukee. New York has the Phillies, Braves, and Brewers remaining. That's tough.
It's tough, and the Braves on paper have the more favorable schedule if they can handle business, something that they have not truthfully been able to do all season long. What better time for that to happen than now? But when you compare those three schedules, the Braves do have the favorable. And it's interesting with Milwaukee's success, having it was the Phillies end with them. I don't hate that.
Right. So the Braves also 2 games back on the Arizona Diamondbacks, who have identical records to the Mets. They're the remaining schedule 4 at Milwaukee, and then they have 3 at home against the Giants and 3 at home against the Padres. So, see, they have a tough stretch too.
Yeah.
So now looking at that, the Braves after today's game, Marlins, Mets, Royals. The Mets have Phillies, Braves, Brewers, and then the Diamondbacks, Brewers, Giants, Padres. I think the Mets of the 3 have the toughest remaining schedule.
Yeah.
And then I would put the Diamondbacks second and the Braves third. Now, the problem with that, and this is a favorite point for you to make, the Marietta Marvel, the Braves don't play well against bad teams.
Oh, no,
they
don't.
play better against good teams.
I know. We talked about it every single episode. The Braves have not been handling business. It's simple as that. You can sum it up, and that's it. So we always talk about with these series, guys, it's like, don't get too far ahead of ourselves. The Marlins, yes, we should dominate. That should be a 3-game, quick, good, let's go to our next thing. Yet, we don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I would say, hey, if the Braves don't take care of business in Miami, they're absolutely done for. But you have to account for what New York is going to do against the Phillies and what the Diamondbacks are going to do in Milwaukee. And so you can't quite throw that out. But it is hard for me to imagine a scenario where the Braves at least don't take 2 or 3 from Miami and still make the playoffs.
Yeah, well, this is actually my PG postscript for today, and I was going to ask you what your perfect scenario is for the next 2 weeks for the Braves to make the playoffs. It has to be realistic. It can't be like
all wins. Oh, got it. Got to be realistic. Dad, burn it. I do think a Marlins sweep is very realistic, and so a Marlins sweep, and then if you could take. Between those last 6 games with the Mets and Royals, if you take 3 of 6 even from that, you may get in.
Right.
If you've swept, because you have that Marlins, and that's including a win today as well, by the way. You have to win today's game. They're up 1-0, by the way, now. 1-0 Braves, top of the second.
Is there a world in which the Braves sweep the Mets next week?
Absolutely. It's possible. Again, the Braves play well against bad teams. You never know what will happen as the regular season winds down. Crazy things do tend to happen this time of year. And, we'll see how these teams, Atlanta's certainly not the only team that's going to be playing under pressure. All of those teams are playing under pressure. And even to an extent, San Diego. And so there's going to be pressure for those teams, and we'll see who plays to that pressure and who does not. One thing the Braves will have looks very, it's not official, but it's basically the case in Miami that they have not had is Ozzie Albies back at second base.
Yep. So he has been on rehab and he's had a great showing in Gwinnett. And it looks like that could be the catalyst that could turn this Braves team around. It's hilarious. I feel like we've been waiting for it all season. What better time, truthfully, than now? But that could be the spark that gets his team back on track to contend in postseason.
Well, he's been tearing it up in Gwinnett, hasn't he?
Yes, and I want to go back. Not contend in postseason, make it into postseason.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the phrasing we're having to use.
Okay, so as expected, Ozzie rejoins the team in Miami and is playing second base. What do you do with that infield at that point? Because you do have some options there. I think there's a possibility. The reason I say that, I think there's a possibility that you maybe try to keep Whit Merrifield in that lineup. You maybe move him to third. I know with his foot, he's not going to be able to play any outfield. And so, they're not going to put Ozzie anywhere but at second base. And so I think there's a chance that you could see that. I think there's even a chance that you could see Gio Urshela then go to short and perhaps Orlando Arcia not starting every day.
Oh, not starting. Well, I think, and we've talked about this before, Whit Merrifield, his strength is in consistency. So when we saw that when he came to the Braves, he was not utilized as an everyday player in Philly. He comes to the Braves, and look what he's been able to do. So I think it would be wise to keep him in that lineup because it's working right now. Obviously, there is a foot injury that he has that he's dealing with. I would envision your first option, probably knee-jerk reaction, Ozzie back at second, Arcia short, and Whit at third.
Okay. And then,
but there's depth there now, too.
Yeah.
Which the Braves not had.
Right. Which would be nice to have. I do think that the Braves also like the intangibles of Whit Merrifield. They like his leadership, probably his grit as well. Julian Aguilar, by the way, is on the mound for the Reds today. He's 2-0 with a 4.88. He is taking on eventual Cy Young winner Chris Sale, 17-3, with a 2.35. Last night, Spencer Schwellenbach was on the mound. He has gone – his ERA is down to 3.61, and that's over 19 starts. There is a great article at Braves.com by Mark Bowman making a case. This sounds crazy, but read the article. Making a case that Spencer Schwellenbach may be the Braves MVP this season. And as crazy as that sounds, think about where would Atlanta be without him?
That's a great point. I mean, I would not have, if you were to ask me who the MVP of this season would be, I don't think he would pop in naturally.
Yeah, I think most people you're going to go Chris Sale, or possibly Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah,
those are the two.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a third, and I actually can't think of one. I think it'd be Marcell. I think you just can't overstate how good Marcell has been this season and how many times he has pushed the Braves to a win basically by himself. But there is a case for Schwellenbach, and I think for Braves country, it's so exciting to know that he is the future of that rotation. And for him to have that ERA right now, it's incredible. And I think that he's only going to get better because he's only going to get more experience. And he's been put in already so many high-pressure situations that I'm excited, just to see him age into the game because he really hasn't had a chance to do that.
Yeah, he's to take on this kind of workload that he's had this season is something he's never done before. Obviously, he's a rookie, but in any level of ball, he trusts his stuff. He has supreme confidence, and he doesn't throw balls. And, we talked about that with his comments from a previous start where if he's like, I'm going to throw strikes, and if I get roughed up a little bit, I'm willing to live with that.
Yeah. I love that.
Incredibly valuable, however you slot him in that. Speaking of Marcell Ozuna, his homerless streak ended last night. It's back to August the 20th since he had a home run. That ends last night. He had a heck of a game last night as well, found himself on base many times. So good to see that. Good to see a little offense mixed in last night as well. EG, it's time to play one of our very favorite games here.
Hot or not.
Hot or not. And I want to get the negative out of the way first.
Okay.
Because I'm a positive person. Mentioned Orlando Arcia, not hot.
Not hot.
Has not been hitting the ball very well. Part of he's not the only one in this, but the Braves have had so many struggles at getting guys on, especially like situations where you've had guys on third base with either one out or no outs and not being able to bring those runners home.
That, I think, to me, is the single worst issue that plagued the Braves this season. I mean, against the Dodgers, it was like, come on. It doesn't make sense. And I do think Arcia, he was put in that position and he could not bring the runner in multiple times.
Who do you think over the last 7 games has the best batting average on Atlanta's roster?
Matt Olson?
Close. He's up there, but it's actually Jorge Soler, 391 with 2 home runs in his last 7 games. I think he feels pretty comfortable in that 2 spot. I think that's been a good spot for him. Matt Olson is on the hot list as well. He's batting 333 with 9 RBIs, and that's probably why you immediately came to him, because he's racked up so many RBIs. Luckily, Matt's hits have come with guys on base. Michael Harris only batting .267, which is good and respectable, but has had 2 home runs in that span as well. Ramon Laureano, that's a name. Again, a lot of credit belongs to Ramon Laureano, the way he stepped. He's batted .308 in the last 7, and then the aforementioned Marcell Ozuna, even while not hitting home runs, has batted .333 in his last 7. The consistency that you've seen from Marcell. So even if the power has not been there, the guy's still hitting. He's still getting on base. Yeah.
So Olsen and Ozuna are both batting .333.
Olsen and Ozuna are both batting .333. That's right. The Olsen has just had more RBIs, so Olsen's been able to do it more with guys on base.
He's been a double machine, I feel like. It's just a double after double. I think that those guys are going to be so crucial. And, I feel like the season has been ups and downs in terms of hitting, too. It's like offensively, Matt will get on a streak, and then suddenly he's cold for 3 weeks. We don't need him to go cold. I think that is one of my key pieces of the next 10 games. Matt Olson has to continue producing how he is.
Hey, pretty good giveaway I saw, too. I don't remember which game it is, but it's one in the Mets series. They're doing I'm guessing it's probably game 1, but I don't know. But it's a City Connect jersey giveaway night. That's a pretty good giveaway right there. I hope the crowd, I mentioned that because I hope we get really good crowds there for those last 6 games in Truist. I do think we will. But, it is kind of odd. Be honest with you, I don't really care for ending against an American League team like Kansas City. That feels a little weird to me. But that's probably just me being a old man. It would just be so cool to end this season against the Mets.
Right. I agree.
Or just some division team. I just like being able to end against a division team.
It would the atmosphere would be playoff atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I think Braves country will still show up those last 3 games. And it's going to be interesting because the Braves haven't been in this position in 6 years.
Right.
So I'm curious, like you, to see the turnout over these next 2 weeks.
Okay. Right now, you have the Phillies winning the East. You have the Brewers. The Brewers have won the Central, so that is locked up. And then the Dodgers winning the West, with your wild card teams right now being San Diego, Arizona, and the New York Mets. When the season ends, we'll cross Milwaukee off the list because that's a given. What do you see as the playoff standings in the National League?
I mean, I don't want to jinx anything. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's so much parity in these next 10 games that it's almost impossible to figure out what's going to happen. I'd love to see the Braves on that list, but there's a lot of baseball to be played, and the way the schedule is breaking out for a lot of these teams. Truthfully, anything can happen, which makes for good baseball. Can we also talk about how these next 2 weeks, football and baseball aligning? Great slate of games.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if you are a sports fan, this is the sweet time of year.
Yeah, specifically Saturday, got a good 2:30, 3 o'clock slate, and then that Oklahoma-Tennessee 6 o'clock Central kick Saturday night's must-watch TV. So I think we do both agree that Atlanta absolutely has to take care of business this next 4 games against Cincinnati and Miami.
It starts today.
Yeah.
It starts today. And I feel like we'll be singing a very different tune if today is not the outcome Braves country wants. But I think that you have to take care of business in Miami. And if that series gets away, I don't foresee the Braves making postseason.
Win or lose for America's team. I'm never a loser because I always dress like a winner. And if you dress well, you host well, and you live well, and that's all possible for me by our friends at Roback. Roback.com, enter code PG20 to save 20% off your entire order. I think next week, one day next week, is the official first day of fall. That's coming up, I know.
Oh, nice.
So temperature changes and weather changes and all the things. You got to make sure you got the right gear. You need to have the short sleeve and have the polos and the tees and all that, but you also need to get the hoodies and the quarter zips and all the things that Roback offers. Roback.com, code PG20. EG, let's get us a win today, and then let's go to Miami and fish for some marlins. What do you say?
Let's do it. We will see you guys next time. Code PG20 at checkout. We'd love to see you on our socials at the Pennant Grace as we wrap up this season of Braves baseball.
So long, everybody.